Okay, we're going to go ahead and start our next presentation. It is organizing Japanese language classes, brought to us by Valerie Stewart, who is a treasurer of Southeast, and Giuseppe Di Martino of JETAANY. And you
Hiya.
both should be able to share your presentations, no problem.
Hmm.
Hi, so I'm Valerie Stewart, as she mentioned, and I'm going to go first. Then Giuseppe is going to follow me. I don't have a PowerPoint because it's fairly straightforward of what we do. But I don't know if you're very familiar, but with the Southeast chapter, I'll go back. I was a ALT in Saga Prefecture in Kyushu from 1999 to 2002. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I've lived here, born and raised all my life. And after I returned from JET, I came back here. So I live in Atlanta, which is where our consulate is based. And we would say it's sort of the hub for our chapter. But our chapter spans 4 states. So Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And with that being said, I guess we had a hard time in the beginning doing a lot of events in Atlanta because all the officers were based in Atlanta, Georgia by the consulate. But we realized as time went on, we needed to find a way to reach out to all the members. But starting back in the beginning, in the beginnings, I guess maybe around the early 2000s, the only thing that we really did as a chapter was like Nihongo Dake and Nihongo Dake dinners. And we would encourage our members to take language classes wherever they were able to. So our chapter, we didn't provide anything, but through the Japan America Society, they had classes and other organizations. And then the Nihongo Dake dinners fizzled out. Japan America Society, they'd have like a Kyobi Kai, where you could get together with local Japanese members. But, again, it was in the city hubs and it wasn't reaching everyone. So we thought about trying out having a JLPT class. So one of our alumni, he teaches Japanese at a local high school. He offered and did maybe about 5 sessions. And so there was interest, but again, it was still only in Atlanta. But we did that for a year or two. And then we started Meetup. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Meetup platform, but we had Atlanta Japanese Language Meetup. And again, fortunately, it was only in Atlanta, but we would meet, we helped support it, the chapter, through one of our funds because it was a way for new alumni to reach out to us because they would reach out through the Meetup platform, not really knowing that it was sponsored by JET, but we would always find new ALTs through that platform, as well as interested college students, local community members. So it was a real exchange between the community and the JET community. And so we continued to have it. I say met because they're not really meeting now, but met basically every week, have language classes, go out to dinner, do karaoke. So it would be like a whole event. But we gained a lot of new members through that platform over the years. So we started back again with the JLPT courses. And through with the Japan America Society mutual friends, because the Japanese community in Atlanta is small, we started those courses again. We found a local teacher. She's Japanese native teacher who teaches in local colleges in the city, and she sort of became our teacher. So we put together, it was about 4 or 5 sessions. She created the material. We did cost sharing where we would charge the participants a little bit for the materials that she did. So they were in person, but then we came up with a hybrid model where and this was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, we just did Skype. So we had Skype set up at one end of the table and she would teach the other. But it worked really well for us. But again, it wasn't reaching all of the members. So our first, I guess, introduction into a totally virtual lesson was after one of our Q&A sessions. And I can't remember what year this was, but maybe like 2011 or 12. We had a number of new JETs departing who had no Japanese language ability. So we created a survival Japanese course for them, and it was online with the same teacher. And they did it via Skype. She provided all the materials. So one thing I would say when you're putting these online, if you want to go that route of organizing a Japanese lessons, you need to first find someone who works well with the JET community, understands that there may be a varying degree of ability, and that's able to help you put together a course. So because she was already a teacher, she had the materials. We didn't have to originally provide specific textbooks. We wanted to keep the costs down because a lot of the people who joined these courses were maybe recent returnees. We wanted to make it affordable for everyone, whether they're a recent returnee who necessarily did not have the funds to pay for a $200 course that the Japan America Society was organizing. So this year with COVID, we got real ambitious because one of the things that we realized that everybody had access to was online events. And so instead of just doing a course just for N2 or N3 level, we said, let's do all levels. So North Carolina, they had already been doing an N5 kind of level course, maybe once a month. And so we opened that up to all the members. So that was our N5 level introductory course, and it was led by a fellow JET alum. So they do it via Zoom, through our Zoom channel. Then we decided, well, if they're doing N5, let's do N3 and N2 and N1 for everyone. So we came up this year, and actually Tuesday, well, this week is coming up to the last courses, 10 weeks of online Japanese class in 2 levels with the same teacher that we use, that we've used for all these years. There's a textbook, we used our Claire funds for that, and we limited to 10 students because that was more of the teacher's limit, but 10 for each class. So in N2 and the N1 level, there's 6 students. The other one, there was a waiting list. For N3, we had textbooks that we were able to scan. So the participants didn't have to pay for it, but we paid for it through our chapter. For the N2 class, the textbook that was scanned was the teacher. She later said that it was a different version. So, and that textbook was like $95 plus a workbook. So we purchased a copy as a chapter, scanned it. And so those who couldn't afford it or just didn't want to make that expense, we have it. So it's our chapter copy, and we could use it for future lessons, because I'm actually taking that class and we didn't go through maybe 3 chapters. So we can use it for future classes. And she uses, actually her Zoom is what she uses in school. So she's teaches college. And so we use her Zoom for that. And I know in our class, we collaborate through Google Docs. We have a class note system where we're collaborating, we're sharing homework. So it works really well. Me personally, I think feel like the class was too short, but there's all levels from those who've been on JET a long, long time ago to recent returnees. So I think it's is a really good way to engage everyone. I think having all levels allows for everyone to participate. And I think the main factor that you really need to have is to find someone willing to teach the course, who understands JET, knows who we are, and it works really well from there. So that's my part. And we're going to do a Q&A after if you have any questions. Oh, and I forgot one more thing that we did, and also another version that we did was the grant that our President Ingrid Gallinat and Vice President Tim Edenfield, along with US JETAASE, put together. So they are offering, there's a language component for Black and Latinx students in college who've never been exposed or had the opportunity to learn Japanese. So that's through that grant. I think there were, and y'all can correct me, Tim, or 20 students that were able to participate and learn about Japanese language and culture. So that was another. And if you could speak really quickly about that, because you helped organize it.
Sure. Yeah. So we had about 20 spots open. So our president, Ingrid Gallinat, and Bahia had applied for a grant from the Japan Foundation of Los Angeles. And so what that allowed us to do is put together this program and hire a teacher who's a JET alum based out of Scotland to teach these college students who are interested in Japanese but haven't had a chance to study it formally. So we had 20 spots, and we got something like 150 applications. Then it was just for people within our 4 states. But we got quite a response, so we had to kind of whittle that down. It was kind of like our own little miniature JET program in a way. And it's a 4-part thing. Basically, it is like a really introductory Japanese course, and then also they'll hear from 4 different people about their experiences in Japan as a Black or Latino man or Latina woman. So we kind of have a diversity of perspectives, and it's been good so far. We've had 2 of our 4 meetings, and then we'll have another 2 in the coming 2 weeks from now. So far, so good.
So Giuseppe, do you want to go from?
Heyo. I was just wondering, maybe it would be better if everybody who had questions for you asked those questions now before I went. Maybe. What do you guys think?
Feel free to ask if you have any questions.
Or you can just go ahead, Giuseppe, and they can ask like any questions in general when you're done.
All right, that works. So, hi, I'm with JETAANY. I am the so-called language chair, which is a fancy thing that they just made up for me because they were like, oh, you come to all the things. Here, you should do something with us. I was like, oh, the only thing I'm good at is Japanese. Good, you're the language chair. So that's my... So I did a bunch of Nihongo Dake dinners back when there wasn't a plague. It was a bi-monthly thing, and that's not really the interesting part of my story. The more interesting thing is how we organized lessons for outgoing jets. So for whatever reason, we at JETAANY have been focusing on preparing outgoing jets with survival Japanese, as it were. This year we were able to do it 2 lessons for intermediate/upper level outgoing jets and 2 lessons for complete beginner jets. And we worked closely with the teacher who is an alumna, a JET alumna. Her name is Sarah Hamada. And we had the participants pay like a nominal $5 fee. And that happened around 2 months ago. Wow, time flies. The other interesting thing that we're doing is the weekly Zoom chat, Nihongo Dake chat. And that's the more idiosyncratic of the two, I suppose. So the sort of document that I've prepared for all of you today is about those weekly Nihongo Dake chats. By the way, if you're interested, they are 7 to 8 on Mondays EST. And we're always taking more people. I will probably advertise it again at the end, though. Let me get the Google Doc for all of you. It is in the chat. Bink. Please see if you can access it. You should be able to. All right, I'm seeing all the people pouring. So, at first, we did a bunch of like, just basically free chats, but they had a loose theme. And when there was a lull in the conversation, I was like, what's everybody's favorite Netflix show? In Japanese, obviously. And then I sort of ran out of those, general discussion topics. So the ones that came after that were like wacky stuff. For example, I guess games aren't that wacky. We had like trivia / animal trivia, Two Truths and a Lie, Never Have I Ever, things like that. And they weren't always me hosting. Whoever wanted to host, that was a regular participant could host. The ones that I put the most effort in are you see the column that says activities thinly veiled as discussion topics. So I would like craft a Google Doc or a Word document that had a bunch of stuff that was there to essentially spark discussion, as it were. The ones with homework, a senryu is basically it's a funny haiku, and the creepypastas are the one that's coming up in like a month. So that should be fun. Yeah, everybody is supposed to come up with a creepypasta or like trawl the internet for a creepypasta and then like recite it, and then everybody like gives their opinions on that creepypasta in Japanese, of course. So if you scroll down a sec, you can see the second page. It has examples. These are the examples of the activities thinly veiled as discussion topics. So I don't know how many of you can actually read, but this is the one that was for the week whose topic was, would you rather? So number 1 would be, neko no seishin o motsu inu o kau ka, or inu no seishin o motsu neko o kau ka. So would you rather raise / have a dog with a cat spirit / soul in it, or would you have the other way around? And people would be in their breakout rooms discussing this very funny / wacky thing. The funnier and wackier, the more it tends to spark discussion, because people won't be like afraid to share their opinion. That's basically the philosophy behind that. The second one is, would you rather be able to run at 100 miles per hour or fly at 1 mile per hour? That kind of thing. If you scroll down to the third page, you'll see another little tactic I do is blacking out things that you're supposed to guess what's in them. So this is an excerpt from the one that was all about puns, so-called oyaji gag. Oyaji gags. So what could be inside the first blank, the one that says, tabetara ha kusai. If you eat this, your teeth are stinky. But it's a pun, right? So what could it be? Your breakout room, your own little group, discuss what it could be. If you guessed hakusai, it is correct. Hakusai tabetara hakusai. If you're wondering what the next one is, it's Naizol ga Naizol Arie Naizol. And the one after that is a celebrity name. Ni niteru no Megurayan. And the answer is Megurayan ni niteru no Megurayan. So if you highlight it, you'll see it, right? Next example is the trivia one. Do you guys know how many E's are in the band Green? If you answered 2, that is correct. And obviously you'd be discussing what could possibly be the answer with your group without Googling it. Number 2 is, which of these is not a first person pronoun in Japanese? Is it atai, oiran, yo, or achiki? The answer is oiran. The actual one is oira, right? And number 3, what happens if you put ice in the microwave? The answer to that one is 4. Nothing happens. Henka nashi. So this is the moment where I ask you to come join us once again, 7 to 8. You just got to go to the JETAANY Facebook page, and if you go to the events section, it's like 90% the weekly Nihongo Dake chat. All you have to do is like sign up or like register through Zoom once, and then every time you can come in without any hassles. If you want any of the documents, or if you want more details on any of these ideas, whatever, you know what I mean, just hit me up. I'll type it here. Language at JETAANY. Wait. And if you have any other ideas, please, God, give them to me, because I am always hungry for ideas. Okay, that's me. Question time.
Right. So if anyone has any questions for either the or all of the presenters, or we have, what is it? I think we have about 15 minutes, so we have lots of time. If you have any questions, you can raise hand or you can put it in the chat.
If it's okay, I don't have a question, but I have a very gentle suggestion to all the chapters, especially coming off the heels of Zara's wonderful presentation this morning. I would just really like to encourage chapters who have any sort of like language event to try to move away from using the term native speaker to promote your teacher. It's a very big problem actually in the field of second language acquisition. So native speakerism was coined by Holiday in 2005, I believe. But it really just gets at this idea that native speaker is it's a made up term. There is actually no definition of a native speaker, and it's used as a way to exclude qualified teachers. And I would just add that the EU has actually banned the use of native speaker in job advertisements for language teachers, just because, right, it is a way to exclude perfectly qualified people. And furthermore, second language acquisition research very clearly shows that whether a teacher is a native speaker or a non-native speaker has no bearing on how well the students will learn or acquire the language. And I know that people often fret that pronunciation is a concern. How will I ever learn the correct pronunciation if I can't listen to a native speaker? But but we have 10 plus years of research directly looking at pronunciation acquisition, with native teachers, again, I'm putting everything in quotes because, again, all of these are just made up terms meant to exclude people. So looking at native teachers versus non-native teachers and how students develop pronunciation, and there is no difference. So I know it feels like a small thing, but it's again, to me, it's one of those kind of, right? It's about equity. It's about inclusivity. Now I can't speak English, but being inclusive, right? And it's just very near and dear to my heart. And I know that it's something that a lot of people just have no idea is in existence. And I know I'm over here in my applied linguistics bubble, and we talk about it every day. So I just wanted to get it out of my bubble and hopefully into everyone else's. So thank you so much.
And I did want to, I think that's a great point. And I did want to add, I don't think, and now I think about it, I don't think we really advertised it as native, but I think I'm probably misspoke. I meant to say it that she was Japanese, but but then I still understand your point. I think we always said they were certified, like a certified teacher.
Right. And that's right. And so I'm like, not right. That's a really wonderful way to talk about it. And again, it's just one of those things that, like, it's not very well known outside of like this field. But I just wanted to share it because it's right. Because I think it just makes what we do more inclusive.
Kelly, can you give like examples of what you would suggest as a good substitute for that? Because I definitely want to apply that moving forward.
So I think Valerie's idea of, if you have a certified teacher, right? I think that's a great way to talk about, you can even call them an expert teacher, right? Because that's no indication, of whether, it's their first, second, third, fifth language. But because really at the end of the day, right? And I think when and like the JET program actually also sort of has this, right? We all go over as assistant language teachers, but most of us, we're not, we did not study education. We don't have, we have no background in pedagogy, right? So hence why we were assistants, because at the end of the day, like, maybe we learned kind of a little bit how to teach, but so it's kind of it's that exaltation, right, of like, oh, well, because you're a native speaker, like you can do this, right? But that's not really what a good teacher, right? A good teacher has, right, like education in how to teach, pedagogy, has good content knowledge, right? So I think expert teacher, certified teacher, experienced teacher, like those are all wonderful terms to use.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And kind of piggybacking off what Kelly just said, I myself, as a Japanese teacher, went to school for education. So that's my specialty, my expertise. And I know how to teach grammar points, verb conjugations. Not all Japanese people can do that. It's like me, if I were to go to Japan as a jet and have to teach like true grammar, I couldn't do it. I don't know how to explain how verbs conjugate in English because they're so weird. But I know how to do it in Japanese, no problem. So I think this is also a great chance for you to reach out to your JET alumni who are teachers, who are the Japanese teachers out there, because we are certified. And this is what we've been doing, or I've been doing this for 20 years now. It not only does it stay close to the family, the JET family, but we learned how to teach the grammar, and we know what textbooks to use, what's the right approach to take, and whatnot. So,
and that is who we use at our very first courses that we did. And when we asked him again for the other ones, he wasn't available because by then he'd had a family and he just couldn't do it after work. So here was someone who, she was always at things and she was like, sure, I'll teach.
And I'm sure some states it's not as easy. Like in Michigan, we have a strong Japanese community because we have a lot of vendor companies for the automobile industries. So we have Japanese programs in our high schools. So here it's a little bit different. but I can see it doesn't work in every state. I understand that completely. At least you've reached out or found somebody that teaches at the college level, which is just as important, somebody that, learned to teach their language. So that's good. Any other questions?
I had a quick comment. I don't have a raise hand function as a host, but I just wanted to say to Valerie and Giuseppe, amazing presentation. I love hearing what you're both doing. I can say I've attended JETAANY's Monday nights talk. Maybe I missed 3 weeks during all of quarantine. I don't know if you're taking attendance or not, but they've absolutely been fantastic. And all I want to say is, even if a chapter is not thinking about holding language classes, maybe think about if there's an alum who is a little bit shy about joining a whole, a board as a full member, attending meetings and that obligation. Some alums, they want to be responsible for one thing. What's one thing they can own that, the board would oversee? Or depending on how those dynamics vary from chapter to chapter. So maybe think about an event that you're thinking of doing, program you're thinking of doing, whether it's webinars or something like that. But yeah, that was only my 2 cents about that, but excellent job.
I would just really quick, if it's all right, I just want to echo what Dan said. We've had multiple alumni that didn't have the time to commit to a full board position, but we had one run our book club where we read a book related to Japan for the better part of 4 years. And it only really kind of has gone into hiatus since the pandemic started. We had another run our version of the Nihongo Dake dinners, and that was really all that she was responsible for. It's a way to empower people to be involved, and I think it's really, really important as an alternative for full board membership. It also kind of is a gateway to that, which I think is important to keep in mind.
So since we don't have any more questions, do we just want to take our break